Ladies and gentlemen, this team has caused me enough pain this week. Physical pain, well, physical pain on my end, but a lot of pain. Welcome to Woodward Tigers, episode 13, under the new name here at woodwardsports.com. I'm Rogelio, and is Chris and Yooper. Put us on iTunes, Spotify, our media, and Sisler. We waited till the end of the game, and 3-1. Texas gets done in the ninth inning. Wild inning by Braver Soto, and a good start by Bo Brisky. Flushed down the toilet as the Tigers had a strange couple of the last few days. But before getting all that, first and foremost, I want to thank everybody over at the Henry Ford Clinic. I think it's Henry Ford Health. I think they're in the middle of a brand change or whatever. I went there on Tuesday. I've been having stomach cramps, for the last few days. Just thought it was, and then where it was, they found out that I had my appendix, so appendicitis. So they got it done. Got it done last night, like 11:30 at night. I went in there, surgery, all that stuff, and I'm up and running. I'm not nearly 100%. If you see me doing backflips and stuff like that, that's not me. That's somebody. That's a clone. Can't lift anything over 10 pounds for a couple of weeks, and
Good luck going to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's another story for another day.
Another day.
Yeah.
No, I when this happened, I looked up because I've always heard, the appendix it's a useless organ, right? That's what they've always said. Then I was looking it up, and they don't think that's the case anymore. They think it might actually have some use. Not that it's necessary, but that it might be a reservoir for good bacteria to help you get back to health after maybe a few too many trips to the bathroom. Like, I'll be damned.
Yeah, well, it's gone. I'm down another, now.
It's not that necessary. It's just there.
Yeah, it's there, and it is what it is, and that's what the Tigers are right now. It is what it is. And last night, I think what made it worse last night is I'm sitting waiting for my turn to get the procedure done. I had the game on in the hospital bed because you were facing the wall, and there was a Die Hard marathon on. And when the pitcher started pitching, I started watching the Die Hard marathon. I watched it towards the end because I knew full well I was going to do a post game. I'm not going to do a post game show from the hospital. Are you nuts? I can do that. So I couldn't do anything. I usually take notes, talk about that on the after post game, but I just watched like everybody else did. It was a train wreck, and they had the players only meeting, and then Joel and I had some thoughts about it, which we'll get to in a little while. Yeah, you run out of superlatives to say, and then there's just some fans out there who begin on our case about, well, you're being negative. What else do you want me to report? Tell me. Please tell me. What do you want me to report? I say anything nice about Bo Brisky, barely gets any traction.
Keep your organs. Yeah. No. You're absolutely right. I know. We love it when you do that. But I don't want you to strain yourself.
Not yet. No. But I just want to get that annoyance out of the way. If you want me to report the facts, I will report the facts. We would like to believe here as a podcast that Yooper, who sometimes comes across as too negative, quote unquote. I don't get it. Yooper's fine. Chris uses stats. And there's a couple people on Twitter. It's like, if you have a problem with it, what, Chris? What was that?
Oh, nothing. I was trying to make like a nerd fix. A nerd head. Stat guy, like lies, damn lies.
Oh, damn lies. Stat heads. Yeah, sorry. My bad. But good God, man. Like, enough. Like, there is a positive. You saw Bo Brisky pitch brilliantly. He's at an ERA of 0.97 in the month of June. That's good. I pointed it out. There's some traction behind it, but good. Some of the people are cut it out. All right, get a life. Don't watch the game then. Don't watch the game. If you're gonna bitch about people being negative or telling us the truth, it's not like I'm going out of the way to say these things. I mean, Jay Jaffe wrote a very good piece. We'll get to it as well. And we had a couple questions tonight, but this will be a shorter podcast. I'm pretty sure it will be because I'm not 100%. And yeah, I don't want to, as Chris said, Chris is absolutely right. I don't want to overdo it. It's my health, but I got to talk baseball. It's my therapy and all that jazz. So, yeah, so the Tigers lost 3-1, lost 13-0 yesterday. And in terms of positive news to come out of that, gentlemen, go ahead. You guys have any analysis you want to give that's good, so that way our the people who are listening out there or watching on YouTube can say that we're not being all negative.
Well, I just want to say that, when you bring up the Die Hard marathon, Die Hard with a Vengeance, criminally underrated in the sequence
The
of
third
movies.
one?
Number 3.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Oh, absolutely. Samuel Jackson, that's a good movie. Doesn't get talked enough in the Die Hard realm there.
My wife actually loves like the PG-13 one. The one with Timothy Oliphant, I think. It's like the 5th one. Maybe that's not the PG-13 one, but
where they take over DC.
It has to do with like hacking and
I don't
even like whatever. I don't know.
It kind of lost its mojo in that one, I think.
You know what? The fact that they used John Amos.
One guy Die Hard. Come on now.
Yeah, I like John Amos in the second one because when that guy who wasn't part of the Army Commando just takes a knife and just goes. John Amos is a fantastic actor.
Yes, no question. Die Hard 2 is very good. I would rank the movies Die Hard 1, number 1, 3, number 2, and 2, number 3. But
that's
good
fair.
movie.
Yeah. Die Hard with a Vengeance I didn't see till later. So I can understand that sequencing though. It's really well done. Jeremy Irons also a very good villain.
Yes.
So but let's move on.
That's better than any Tiger talk.
That's
true. Speaking of villains.
Yeah, speaking of villains, the Tigers' Tigers' offense is villain-like. So it was something that Jay Jaffe pointed out in Fangraphs. The Tigers, in a quote, the Tigers' offense was bad enough to make a mandate replacement in the historical context. The team owns the major's lowest scoring rate by more than a half a run. That would be the 2.71 runs would be the lowest mark since the integration in 1947. They have a WRC plus of 70. 70. Yes, the weather has been nice, Jeremy, but the Tigers' bat's still not heating up. Sorry if you're listening to us on YouTube. But as far as good news about this week in terms of, we mentioned Bobrisky. Is there anybody else you guys want to mention before we get into the various other top? Hey, I mean, right now down the farm, by the way, Chris, Riley Green's okay, by the way?
Yeah, he fouled the ball off his foot, but appeared to, and he hurt for a little bit, but he stayed in, struck out, but then he was back out there in the field in center for the final inning. So, I was just looking, the Tigers have 11 runs over their last 7 games.
Oh, boy.
Which is the entirety of this homestand, I think.
The Tigers are now 229 when they score 2 runs or fewer.
Yeah, they played 63 games, and they've scored 2 runs or fewer 31 times.
Half the games.
I don't... Like this is one of those things where like that's the one where like you got the negative comment like, hey, we understand the team sucks, please talk about something else. It's like, what more can you talk about? This is a historically bad offense with no precedent. There's no explanation for any of this. I tweeted from the Woodward account the other day that the home run parity between this time last year and this time this year, Austin Meadows had 15 home runs last year at this time. He's got 0 this year.
Yeah.
Robbie Grossman, 9, 0. Javi Baez, 14, 3. Like, either there's something just remarkably wrong in that clubhouse that makes nobody want to be at these games and performing and playing baseball, or this is just the strangest bit of bad luck in the history of the game. And I don't know. I mean, I'm leaning towards the latter or former. Yeah, the former. There's something terribly wrong with this team from the top down.
Yeah. The thing about that is, and then why are they pitching pretty well? I just think it's an historic thing that's happening to them. It's just all these circumstances piling on one another. You just go around the entire lineup and nobody is surpassing or even meeting expectations or coming close. I've just never seen anything like it. Which leads me to believe it's one of those anomalies that they're just being hit with.
Yeah. We talked about this. We expected some sort of regression this year, but not historically bad regression. And I'm looking at the stats. I'm looking at what they do at home and away for home runs. And because somebody mentioned, well, what if, like, for example, the Yankees and Dodgers, they're getting a better ball because they're a better market team.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, does that have any merit to it? And I'm looking at the home and away stats here, and I suddenly lost them. But as far as home runs go, I think it's almost even. It's almost an even split. Correct?
Well, how about for the pitching staff?
That I did not investigate. They have 31 home runs as a team. They actually have a higher. Oakland still has a lower batting average. Oakland is batting .211. So, but I'm looking at that up right now. Chris, do you try to find that? Let me see here.
I think our friend Steve Cook tweeted to us 80 guys last year hit 22 or more home runs in baseball, and the only two with 0 so far this year are Meadows and Grossman.
So as a collective, so the Tigers are hitting home runs on the road. They have 15 home runs on the road. At home, they have 16. But they're batting on the road, 205 on the road.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's not just guys from last year like having regression. It's everybody they brought in, Baez and Meadows. How do you explain that? I mean, we know what Javi Baez is. He's got some serious warts, but he always hit home runs. And Austin Meadows, like, that was the main thing he did. He hit home runs and he walked sometimes. Yep. And suddenly he's Sean Casey. I don't. It's just so hard to explain.
Yeah, and look. Doing a podcast every week about this. You know what? I got to give props to Scott Bentley for doing a podcast about this team every single day. Mm-hmm. Every single day, Scott Bentley has to do this for Locked On Tigers. I salute you, Scott Bentley. I honestly do. You and Chris Castanelli, who have to do a show, and pretty much I do as well. But when we come together and do this weekly podcast, it is becoming apparently abundantly clear we do 15 minutes on dumping on the team. But that's all the news is. When it's good, we'll discuss it. We did get some good questions this week, so we'll get to that. But yeah, the Tigers are 20 on trigger right now. I don't even want to look at that trend. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to. There's no reason for it.
Did they hold another closed door meeting?
And you know what, Yooper? I want to talk about that real quick. Did you sent in that question in the Twitter, right?
Which one's that?
That was it. You that sent the closed door meeting or had a problem with or something like?
I didn't have a problem. I was just making some fun of it. Name the top 5 closed door meetings in baseball history. You know, I don't know how much they work. A couple of people sent in a couple of examples. I guess the Braves before this winning streak had a meeting. Okay, that's good. Then the one I don't count is the Cubs had a meeting during the World Series, in Game 7. Well, you're already in the World Series, so I maybe you had a meeting, maybe it helped, but you were fine. I just don't know how much these closed door meetings do for you. The airing of grievances, the feats of strength, the whole thing. Not sure. I did see some people who were a little upset today when Barnhart said everybody's still pretty chill in the clubhouse, that there wasn't a lot of, I don't think chairs were broken during that meeting or bats thrown around, at least not that they were willing to say publicly. I just don't know. When you have a complete systemic breakdown to your lineup like this, I just don't know what a meeting's going to do. I hope it helps. It got them 1 run tonight, so you just keep going around and around. You got Scope and Candelario, who needed to be slightly above average players for them this year, are giving them nothing. Chris just mentioned the guys they brought in, giving them nothing. Torkelson, we hope would give them at least a little something, giving them nothing. It's just, and you can keep going on and on and on. I just don't know what a meeting is going to do until guys start to hit. Start to hit, then have a meeting. How's that?
Yeah. And why is everybody like? There's a comment on Twitter right now. The clubhouse meeting's going great. Pay more attention to the ping ball tournament than scoring runs. Guys, if they can't hit, they can't hit. Well, they suppose they're supposed to go raw. It's going at we swing and we. It's a 162 game season. It's not. Don't say they don't care. I hate when people say that. I feel like a broken record that said that the last 3 weeks in a row. But come on.
Yeah, and we get a lot of like they've got to fire the pitching coach or the hitting coach, right? They got to fire somebody, and it feels like that just to like fend off the pitchforks and torches, right? Like they do need to sacrifice somebody. But Scott Coolbaugh isn't telling people to go out there and not hit home runs. Like he's not. It's the old Bobby Ross thing. Like I don't coach that crap, right? Like he's not. This is not part of the plan. He's not out there. Like whatever he's going on is not working, obviously. But it's like I don't think a new hitting coach is just going to come in and fix everything all of a sudden. He's not going to go like, oh, you guys have been swinging backwards the whole time. Here's what you want to do. You want to hit the ball over the fence.
Yeah.
It's the players know what they have to do. It's just the damnedest thing.
Yeah. At this point, it's just, well, at any rate, I mean, let's move on because there's plenty of other baseball to talk about.
It's time for Rogelio and Chris to go inside the numbers.
And it's time for Inside the Numbers, and probably my favorite, Luke. Luke cracks me up, by the way. Yeah, we lost tonight on another Brigham Young, but the Tigers ping pong tournament is alive and well. Oh boy, well, I can't laugh because it hurts to laugh right now. Luke, that's good.
There's no question Vic Reyes is winning that, right?
Yeah, he's probably got a really good spin. I mean, if we want to do a breakdown, we should do. And now for the 15th annual Detroit Tigers ping pong tournament, hosted in the clubhouse with your host, John. I don't know, some generic here on the Ocho, the ESPN Ocho. Well, look at that serve there by Victor Reyes. What a spin. All right. Yooper, what is your inside number before I carry on that stupid segment that didn't exist?
Well, my number, unfortunately, it's going to be the people who think we're too negative. My number is 30. So you can probably guess there's 30 teams in MLB, right?
Right.
So just to go through the whole sad list, the Tigers are 30th in runs with 160. Well, before tonight, but they scored 1 run. I think we're safe on most of these stats. Last in runs, last in hits, last in homers, last in OPS. Last in walks, stolen bases, extra base hits, total bases, WRC plus, and F4, which we probably could have guessed most of those things, but it's just interesting to see that lengthy list, and it just keeps hitting you over in the face. Last. So it's truly something we haven't seen. The 03 team at least had Delman Young or Dimitri Young. This team does not.
Yeah.
Team slash, by the way, 221, 278, 318. Before
318 slugging. Sounds good. Get nearly a base. Nearly a third of a base. Yeah. No, mine is somewhat similar. Or one thing you talked about there, I mentioned here. My numbers are 52 and 12. And that 52 is the number of stolen bases for the Texas Rangers this year, the Tigers' opponent, which is the most in baseball. And most of them belong to 3 players: Eli White with 12, Marcus Semien with 11, although I believe he got caught or picked off today, and Adolis Garcia with 10. But they have 15 different players with a steal. And that 12 is the stolen bases for the Tigers, last in baseball. They are led by Derek Hill of the Toledo Mud Hens with 3 steals. And I wrote this on the very long list of offensive issues for the Tigers this year. Steals are near the bottom, I would say. You've just elucidated all of those. But it sure would be nice if they could at least be a little bit more entertaining. They stole 88 bases last year, which was tied for 7th most in baseball. And this year, I mean, you could say it's because they're not getting on base, but I think it's because they are scared to make outs. I think Vic Reyes got caught stealing today, so that's they're 12 for 21 this year, which is not a great ratio there. So yeah, they can't afford to make any outs, but I don't even care at this point. Just if they get on base, they should just run wild for the hell of it.
So my number is 5, and that's the number of assists by Cuban outfielder Alanis Garcia, who had a really good throw to nail down Eric Haas. And I don't blame the Tigers for sending him. I really don't. I mean, you have to make that there. But the reason why I brought up that number is because Garcia, I mean, in terms of the batting average, he still has the OPS plus over 114. And he's a fun player to watch. Another former Cardinal outfielder who's doing well somewhere else, which is good to see. And that throw was on the money. That was a good throw. And he's got a good arm out there. And again, that's something worth mentioning. His assists, he can field, he can hit with power. Batting average a little again, but in terms of getting on base, doesn't have a problem with that. So just want to throw that name out there. Garcia, if you're watching, was watching the entire game, and Texas' offense didn't do anything until the 9th, but either way, Garcia is a fun player to watch.
Yeah, he's an interesting player. Like you mentioned, he's got power, he's got speed, he's a great fielder, or at least has a great arm. He graded out really well last year. He's just one of those guys who is kind of held back by a substandard approach, but he's been able to make it work so far, even though he's in his upper 20s. So that's kind of it's just like a cool find for the Rangers there. Wouldn't mind having a couple of those Rangers.
Last year when they got him, he was a house of fire for the first couple months, and then he kind of quieted down a little bit toward the end of the year. I was wondering how that would play out this year, but he's certainly come back and been useful again.
Yeah, it's pretty similar across the board. He ended up 31 homers and 16 steals last year. I'm looking at stats right now, hitting 243 with a 5.1% walk rate. This year, he's on pace for about 31 homers and 20 steals. So yeah.
And that was something that Texas just took a flyer on too.
Yep.
Didn't hurt.
Sometimes it works out.
So that's some good eyes there by the Rangers there.
The good.
Oh, that's good.
The bad.
Oh, that's bad.
And the ugly.
All right, it's time for the good, the bad, and the ugly this week. Chris, you're leading us off there. What do you got?
All right, let's wild with this. How about Esteury Ruiz? Anybody familiar with him? He's kind of a fun example of the way prospects kind of go up and down throughout their career, and you can't really tell anything at any one time. So I remember he was traded by the Royals to the Padres in the deal that involved like Trevor Cahill and Matt Strom and future Tiger great Travis Wood. Ruiz won the Arizona League MVP back in 2018, I think it was, and he was moved up pretty highly on some on prospect lists. I think it was a top 10 prospect in the Padres system, and then he did basically nothing for like 3-4 years. He had been getting sort of comparisons to Alfonso Soriano, because he was a second baseman and with power and speed and kind of skinny, and also not a good second baseman. Like that was one of his big failings. But yeah, so he was basically an average player for a couple of years, and then missed 2020, of course. And he, bad swing decisions, sort of the classic. Like, yeah, he's got tools, but it's not going to work. Bad swing decisions, too many strikeouts, not enough walks, and a very poor defensive player. And then so he went from playing second base mostly to third base to the outfield corners last year. And then he was kind of like a forgotten prospect hanging around the fringes of the system. And then this year, between AA and AAA, he's batting .363, .489, .656 while playing center field. He has 19 doubles, 2 triples, and 13 home runs to go along with 38 walks, 16 hit by pitches, and 44 stolen bases in 57 games.
Wow.
So I think he just turned 24 not that long ago, and you still won't see people calling him a future star or anything like that, but he's putting up like Eric Davis in his prime stats right now in the minors, and it's just I don't know, that struck me as kind of good. It's he's a hell of a lot of fun to watch. My bad is poor damn Royce Lewis. I had missed this, but he tore the ACL in his knee for the second straight year.
Yeah.
You remember he was the number 1 overall pick in 2017. Looked like a star after his first year, then looked like kind of maybe a bit of a bust. He was another guy who wasn't, he was swinging a bit too much, and then kind of picked it back up in the Arizona Fall League in 2019, and then missed 2020 because of the pandemic, and then 2021 because of the torn knee. But then he showed up at the bigs this year and had a really nice 12-game stretch.
Yeah, he looked good.
4 doubles, 2 home runs, looked very much like he was going to stay with Minnesota, but they sent him back down when Correa came back, and then he blew out his knee for the second time. So, he just turned 23, but it really does suck to see a young kid like that with a ton of potential lose 2 years in a row with the same injury. It's you hope he comes back strong and just maybe against other teams.
Real shame. I mean, they had him playing center field. I don't know how often he ever played center field in his life when he hurt his knee.
I think he played a little bit in the AFL, but I'm not entirely sure. Like, it did seem like they were going to make him basically a super utility guy.
Yeah.
Because and I saw him in the Arizona or the Midwest League All-Star game in what would have been, I guess, 2018. And he made some spectacular plays at shortstop. He's a really good athlete, but I guess they just kind of liked him everywhere. And my ugly is the Chicago Cubs. It feels bad calling any other team ugly at this point, but they have dropped 10 straight games, and they are now 23-40, which is tied for the 4th worst record in baseball with the Reds, actually. They might be, I don't know, the Tigers might have pulled even with them, but it's interesting because the Cubs are kind of rebuilding, but also kind of not, right? Like, they're in that weird phase where they went out and they spent $25 million on Marcus Stroman, who's been hurt and kind of average. Their payroll is $10 million higher than the Tigers. They've got Jason Hayward still making $22 million a year, not doing a whole lot. Kyle Hendricks, $14 million, ERA near 5. Wade Miley's out with a sore shoulder. Thea Suzuki is hurt. Clint Frazier was cut. Frank Schwindel's been bad. Nick Madrigal's been bad. Andrelton Simmons was bad. Jonathan VR was bad. It's just an ugly roster out there, kind of wasting decent years from Contreras has been good, and Happ has been good, and Horner has been good, but it's it's ugly out there in Chicago right now. Maybe they need to play the Tigers. Yeah, I guess the concerns about his lack of power are very real and could be, could basically threaten his career.
Wow.
Well, and then again, it's like there was a lot of fans on. I noticed this on Twitter. They were Cubs fans in general. There was not realize in terms of how they portray themselves as trying to contend and that they were trying to do things this year. It's been publicly documented, and so I don't know. Being a Tigers fan right now, it's the same. It's the same thing. They did. The Tiger fans actually did. Excuse me. The Tigers did more in the offseason than the Cubs did, but. And then what is it? And then somebody mentioned in the YouTube chat, no more. Was there a homer today? Who's actually done pretty well for the Padres? I don't know. I don't know what you guys want me to tell you. I really don't. I don't know. All right, Yooper.
That won't last.
That won't. Okay. Yeah, they'll fade pretty quickly. I mean, I think if anything, I expect Jose Alzacar to last longer in a Padres uniform than Nomar will. You know what? I'll guarantee it right now. Go ahead, Yooper. What's your good and bad?
One thing that.
Go ahead.
Chris, go ahead if you want.
Oh, I was just going to mention, I mentioned that Estier Ruiz, they said that he's basically doubled his walk rate this year. And they said he worked with the same guy that got Jose Azocar to make better swing decisions, which is how he got to the majors. So there may be maybe there's a coach out there who can actually fix bad swing decisions, which is something I've never really thought was possible. So if that's true, then go get him.
Cool Ball's replacement.
Yeah.
My good, very rare sighting of Rob Manfred and good in the same sentence. Listen, and I'm not talking about his entire press conference, but he did mention today the pitch clock. He likes it. He wouldn't guarantee it's in next year. He doesn't want to usurp the committee decision. But if you read between the lines, I think it's coming in next year. And I'm a fan of the pitch clock. I think it's time. Yesterday I was watching some pitch and I just couldn't take it. It was Dylan Cease, as a matter of fact. So whatever day he pitched, oh my God, it was just languishing between pitches. So I was encouraged by what Manfred said about the pitch clock. He also said that the robo-ump is probably not coming next year. They want to test the challenge system in the minors a little bit more. I'm okay with that. I know I'm usually pro umpire, and that's fine. But I'm not sold that technology is perfect, number one. And we know umpires already aren't perfect. I get that. I honestly think something will be gone from the game if we totally automate that. What are we going to complain about? You can't blame the umpire anymore. I mean, come on. So,
No.
and umpires are tougher. You take it. So I'm kind of glad to see that's probably been put off for a year. If they can come up with a challenge system that really works, that's cool. I mean, if they can, each team gets a challenge until they get one wrong, and you said they can do it in 4 to 5 seconds. Fantastic.
Yeah. Not to cut you off, but yeah, I think they use it down in low A, at least the Florida State League. I think that teams get 3 challenges per game.
Yeah.
And it's quick, like in tennis, right? They just look and go, yeah, that was a strike. No, it wasn't a strike. And I'm totally cool with it. Like I think I prefer that more than a total automated strike zone, right? Like because umps aren't, for the most part, umps aren't missing like double-digit calls per game.
No.
They have a pretty close strike zone. At least the major league umps, they're generally pretty damn good. So yeah, get that extra strike back, and it adds a little bit of strategic, decision making there too. Like, do I use it now? Does this matter? Do I save them for later? So yeah. Anyway, sorry to cut off, but I agree with you. I kind of like that.
Yeah. No, that's good stuff to add. My bad. Going to the youth ranks again, and I'm talking umpires again, but this was pretty bad. In New Jersey on Saturday, a 72-year-old umpire in a 13 and under game gets punched by a coach, decked, broken jaw in 2 places, dental surgery required for the older gentleman. And the thing about it is, when you read about it, none of it's surprising. None of it, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. It's happening every weekend somewhere around the country. The one that was particularly bad about this one this weekend was evidently while the EMTs and stuff were attending to this umpire, parents for the team that felt aggrieved by him were yelling that he deserved it. So it's just, this team was out of Long Island. I guess the tournament itself was in New Jersey.
Doesn't surprise me, actually.
Hopefully, it sounds like the police are on it. They haven't filed charges yet, but it sounds like that is working through the system, and this guy will be arrested. But it happened earlier this year with a woman in the umpire in Mississippi got decked by that person wearing the Mother of the Year T-shirt, which was, she got a misdemeanor. She spent like 2 days in jail and $400. It was basically nothing. And that woman, her face was messed up from that punch. So, the only reason I bring this up is just hopefully people who hear it, maybe they calm down next time they're at a game, or maybe they tell their coach of their kid to calm down the next time they're just losing it. Because here's the God's honest truth in these travel tournaments. Nobody remembers who won them 2 days later. Nobody cares. And people are losing their mind over it. Okay, so that was the good, the bad. My last one is the funky. I kind of loved yesterday. 2 immaculate innings in one game by the Astros. Pretty cool. But the best part, of course, was they struck out the same 3 guys for both of them, which was what are the odds of that? So it was Nathaniel Lowe and Ezekiel Duran and Brad Miller. So and the
could
2
you
guys
take one of those for today?
Yeah, Luis Garcia and Phil Maton through the immaculate innings. It seems like we get more immaculate innings the last 10 years now that strikeouts are up so high. I think they happen a little more frequently, but it's still pretty cool. 9 pitches, 3 Ks. But that was the first time in Major League history they had 2 in one game.
By the way, look, I'll just say this about coaches. Nothing surprised me. I see some of the garbage we see on social media. So some of the behavior against umpires. The guy in Brazil, a soccer guy in a D4 league, like a low tier league, got killed, was beheaded. So nothing's. Yeah, it was beheaded. I'm not kidding.
On the field.
No, he was. There was a. If you look it up, I'll look it up.
It's not as bad. So I believe it. I'm just like,
I'm not gonna look at the actual, video of it.
No, I just was like, they didn't jump on the field and behead him like during the game. That's a step too far. You're gonna behead somebody after the game, okay?
But don't give them ideas.
Murder of. He was a 20-year-old referee. was lynched, beheaded, and quartered by football spectators. His name was, name of Octavio. I'm not going to try to pronounce it. This poor kid. This was in June of 2013. In an
Lynched,
amateur
beheaded, and
football
quartered.
match.
I don't know. I mean, they should just continue playing in empty stadiums and put fans in like the Family Feud isolation booth.
That kid is 20 years old. Over the last couple of years, they've had me umpiring at times with some younger guys who are maybe 15 to 18 years old because they just want to learn how to umpire. And I'm happy to do it. It's fun, but you'd be amazed what a grown adult, they'll get in the face of a 16-year-old kid and berate them like they're in the Marine Corps. It's really amazing. There's just no shame to it. Everybody feels entitled to get their 2 cents in over a ball, a pitch that was outside, or of course the best one is when they're trying to tell us the rules and they don't know the rules. They're making, they got the make shit up rule book, so. But yeah, the age doesn't matter. I mean, the 72-year-old guy got clocked. I've seen 15-year-old kids get berated by adults. I mean, it really doesn't matter.
By the way, that 20-year-old kid did stab the player that didn't want to get off the field. So there's more to it than that. So anyway.
Wait, he stabbed somebody?
The referee, the 20-year-old I just mentioned, he stabbed the guy because the guy would start getting in a fight with him. And Brady threw a punch. And then to stick up for himself, Sylvia, the referee, stabbed Ryu. Anyway, let's get back to baseball. This is bad.
We haven't had any stabbings yet, although that ump nearly got stabbed in the eye. Did you see that?
Oh,
yeah.
With Mike Trout. That's one of the craziest sports pictures I've ever seen.
Yeah.
His bat just sticking right there. Jeez.
Yeah. So my good this week is Roberto Compost, who's off to a really good start in the month of June, batting .361. Again, no power, but it's okay. I don't really, off on the swing will happen. He's 18 years old, and he's having a really good month. And Lakeland as a whole has had a really good season in terms of, comparatively speaking, the last year at this time. I think Lakeland's made a lot of significant, they got some really good talent on their team. And he's taken, in terms of walks, he's got 6. Well, it's more walks than strikeouts now. 6 walks to 5 strikeouts. That was one thing about Compost a lot last year that he was overswinging a lot, but he's showing good patience at the plate. And when I saw him down in Lakeland, I thought he drove a couple 3-2 counts, and that's progress to me for a kid his age. If he starts hitting the ball more in the air, that's significant. So Roberto Compost is my good. My bad is all the injuries that are going on across baseball that are not the Tigers. And there was an update on Fernando Tatis Jr. He's going to be out a little longer than expected because of his wrist. And Ryu for Toronto, his elbow, he's going to be out. He's going to be off rotation for a while. And the guy we did see that was replacing him, Ross Stripling, will continue to replace. But Toronto's lacking a pitcher, so I expect Toronto, to be heavy in the free agent trying to acquire a pitcher in the coming up trade deadline. So as far as my ugly goes, I mean, I know we've talked about the Tigers quite a bit and all that, and I'm not going to continue on that hill. Rather, you mentioned it earlier about the Cubs. So what is wrong with the Cubs? There's a lot of things wrong with the Cubs, but one of the things that particularly stands out about the Cubs and what makes them so ugly during this losing streak is the fact that you look at their rotate. Like you talk about the Tigers rotation, but look at this Cubs rotation is historically bad right now. They're not historically bad. Excuse me. They've been getting injured. 3 guys: Stroman, Smiley, and Miley. Or excuse me, Stroman, Smiley, and Miley. Wow, actually, I thought I said that wrong, so that's why I had to.
Miley Smiley.
Miley Smiley have been. They're all on the IL, so they were calling up Mark Leiter Jr., former Tiger migrant or former Mudhead. Mark Leiter Jr. was in the rotation. But it's not him in particular. It's the bullpen they're not getting a lot of help from. One Daniel Norris, 8.25 ERA. His FIP, so you look at his FIP, it's like, well, what is FIP? 6.14. He has 16 walks and 24 innings pitched. So for everybody that bitches about Al Avila, and rightfully so, just say Reese Olson for Daniel Norris. And whether it was a scout that recommended that or not, ultimately, we can say with certainty that a scout told, this is something that's true, a scout told Avila, or somebody told Avila, hey, pick up Reese Olson, see if he's available. Somebody saw Reese Olson somewhere, and Milwaukee said sure. So
Didn't our buddy Jake have a fun tweet about Daniel Norris? He called him a 3-2 rock-on pitcher this year.
Yep.
Was it 35 strikeouts, 16 walks, and 7 home runs in 24 innings? That's not great.
To answer Where Calls question in YouTube, yes, I had my appendix removed last night, and I'm here. That's why my voice sounds like the way it is. And if you see me walking around, because I don't think I'm on supposed to cover the game, or supposed to cover the series this weekend for Texas against Texas. I didn't do the game tonight, obviously. I don't think I'm gonna go. We'll see. I know myself. I'll tell myself I'm not gonna do something, and then I'll end up doing it. That happens to me all the fucking time. Pardon my language, but it's true. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But and thanks. Thanks, Werkow, for that comment. I appreciate it. No, I got a job to do. I'm gonna do my job, and I'll rest up. And you know what? I shout out to my wife. My wife has been a saint. She has taken care of me the entire time. She sat through me watching this crazy guy in the ER. And Chris, I sent Chris the video.
Yeah.
This crazy guy, Yooper, who was telling everybody he was going to kill everybody and that he wanted to vape. And yeah, it was some strange stuff. But kudos to my wife for taking care of me.
I texted her to see how things were going and if there's anything I could do. And she said, you could maybe try to get people to stop getting shot in Detroit. And I was like, well, I guess. So I just sent her a gif of RoboCop. I don't know. Like, yeah, that's all I got.
Well, because every time there was an incident when they had bring in somebody, obviously if something happens to somebody, they have up there to use surgery. It's more
the triage, right? Basically, the emergency situation. If somebody's bleeding out, they got to take that person before they. But still sucks for you. Like you're sitting there, you were in the hospital for it seemed like 30 hours maybe more before they finally admitted. Yeah.
I was gonna say I went in then Tuesday at 6 o'clock. I didn't leave till today, like 2. And by the time I got upstairs to go before there was 13 hours before I got upstairs actually in my room, and I watched the Tigers game last night. So I went from more punishment, to more punishment upstairs.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I'm alive. I'm grateful, and I'm grateful for everybody who has checked in on me. Much appreciated. But the show goes on. All right, so we got some questions today, Chris. What do we get?
Let's see. I'm gonna have to look. Use the phone.
I'll read. You know what? I'll read the one question we did get from our man here. Another DM question here. I'm trying to see here. Right here. Okay, so I got it. Mark, who always DMs some great questions. Hey, here's a podcast question. Rays and Wheeler are batting 1 and 2 again, even though they're near the bottom of the team ranks in chase percentage, barrel percentage, and walk rate, but they have higher on base percentage because mostly soft hit singles. Should they try adding some extra base power speed to the guys at the top of the lineup instead? I feel like anyone's worth a shot at this point. Mark, that's a good question. Chris, go ahead. Or you go ahead.
Well, I know there was one game, didn't they try Meadows up there? For maybe leading off or batting second. There's nothing wrong with that, but again, I think no one's hitting. I mean, what are you going to do? At least Reyes and Castro are hitting enough where, maybe you get them an extra at bat each game, and they get an extra single, and maybe the sequencing works out, and you get an extra run. Hasn't happened much, but I mean, I don't know what cards Hinch has to play right now, other than what he's doing.
I mean, there are no extra base guys or speed guys. They don't exist. The call's coming from inside the house. You guys know who the top 2 hitters on the Tigers are this year by isolated power? Slugging minus batting average.
I would go with. I'll take a guess. I'll go with Spencer Torkelson and Harold Castro.
Harold Castro is number 1. Harold Castro's number 1. Daz Cameron is number 2. Harold Castro 161. Daz Cameron 143.
Nice.
Torkelson is at 109.
Oof.
There is no extra base power on this team, and as I said earlier, they're last in steals. They're supposed to be. I don't like. Victor Reyes would be that guy, right? He's kind of speedy gap hitter who, yeah. I don't know. It's a good question. In a perfect world, yes, they'd have somebody like that coming up. It would be maybe Riley Green that Workhouse was asking about. Like he's a potential guy who could hit for extra base power. He got a double tonight, and he can steal some bases, but he's not he's not a speed burner. But I don't know. They're yeah. Your guess is as good as mine. They probably should just do the lineup out of a hat method at this point.
Yep.
Yeah, as far as it goes with, see, a lot of people look as far as Willie Castro goes. I know a lot of people don't like him, but out of all the options they have, it's a good question mark. And looking at some of the free agents right now, there's nobody out there right now that's gonna. I mean, you can talk about Malcolm Conforto or Conforto as a free agent possibility, but again, what's that going to cost Detroit and all that? Who knows? And he's not going to be able to after the All-Star break anyway. So you're talking about another month before he's even a regular. It's to me, I think that if they're going to make some sort of change or what have you, and I said this on the Morning Woodward show a couple days ago, there has to be some sort of little minor transaction they can do something out there. There's a fourth outfielder. There's a guy who's unhappy in a situation that they could possibly make a move for if they wanted to. But what that is, what it looks like, there's nothing in the organization. I think Riley Green would be like you said, Chris, the likely alternative. So,
yeah, I mean, they're 63 games in. If somehow this is still this bad in another 40 games or whatever, I could see them basically just throwing everything. Like, all right, Tucker Barnhart, you get traded to anybody who'll take you. Robbie Grossman, you get released. Like any spots they have, and just bringing up anybody. Brendan Davis comes up. Anybody they have, just to see what they can do. Zach Short gets another shot. Like, but I think they're gonna I still think they believe in these guys because of their track record for the most part, and the coaches are there working with these guys every day. They see them putting in the work, right? It's just for whatever reason nothing is actually succeeding. So I don't know. I did. I went back and looked. I think when you first tweeted out that we're doing the podcast, Raj, and one of the first questions we got was from Michael Meyer. He said, theoretical, Avila Hinch fired and the new GM decides they need more hitting talent. Does that mean trading Skubal, who brings back a ton of talent? Soto, Fulmer, Lang wouldn't bring back a huge haul, and no one on offense is going to do that. Trading Skubal.
Probably not. I think Fulmer, they got a real legit player for Daniel Norris. Why can't they get a legit second base prospect for Michael Fulmer? I'm not going to write off this trade deadline and say they can't peddle off some of these bullpen pieces for something useful.
Yeah, I feel like in general teams are much more willing to part with pitching in trades than hitters. The hitters you seem to get are the Travis Demerit types, that like a throw-in ad. But no, there's no, like, if there's a decent enough market, enough people want Michael Fulmer, I could see them getting a 40 FV infielder or something like that. But I don't know. Yeah, I just can't picture anybody. I mean, up until his last kind of disastrous start, Skubal was basically one of the top 5 pitchers in baseball, and he's still that level of talent. He just had a rough outing, which happens. You don't trade guys like that, no matter how much value they can bring you. You don't, especially when he's in year 2. Like, you don't see that happen really. Maybe you keep him 2 more years and then trade him if things still aren't going well. But it'd be nice to keep some good players for once.
Yeah, and look, Paris Skubal is one of the first pitching prospects outside the top 5 rounds that definitely developed. And no, they did not. You can not Fetter effect. This is a little before the Federer effect, okay? And Harris, I'm talking to you.
What?
No,
I don't know what happened.
it's just like, every pitcher that's come up well is because of Chris Federer. Yes, to a certain extent, it's true. But Scooble was doing this before Federer arrived. Just saying. So to trade him would be I like what Michael's idea is. I do, because they could fetch a lot for it. They can probably fetch some name players that could change them and get some average production. But to what you're saying, Yooper, you're right. If they can get somebody like Reese Olson, why they couldn't get somebody on the offensive side of things?
Well, and I know the only other thing I'll say about Scooble, I don't think they'll trade him ever either. Yeah. But I've always, and I want to be consistent, and I guess I'll have to stick with that. I would trade anybody because everybody has a price. Could you put together a package for Tarek Scooble and say, "Oh yeah, I'd do that"? Sure, but I question whether that will be out there.
Yeah, you would have to be, once again, have to be the right situation where he would probably be more like, hey, these three guys could be average players than like you're trading a potential top of the rotation starter for a potential middle of the order all-star bat. Like, teams just don't seem to trade hitters like that. At least not guys who are going to be, under team control for multiple years.
Right.
Yeah, like you said, everybody's got a price. If somebody knocks your socks off with a deal, sure, trade them. But I just don't. I don't know. I think it's just one of those things where I think baseball in general is like, we'll make our own pitchers and they'll be good. Like we talked about this before. Who's leading baseball in ERA right now? Tony Gonsolin, a 9th round draft pick from 2016, who got a $2,500 bonus from the Dodgers. $2,500. That's like, they spent less on him than a 4K TV in 2016.
By the way, everyone does have a price. Ted DiBiase once said that.
That's right.
Everyone does have a price. I just had to quote the great Ted. You quoted the great Ted DiBiase there, Chris. So
$1 million man.
$1 million man. Everyone does have a price. But to Michael's point, I completely agree with you, Michael. It's the same issue as Fulmer and Boyd. You're absolutely right. But at the same time, with Scooble, it's kind of like a once in a life. I don't want to say once in a lifetime. It's a unique arm, but to Chris's point, I don't think any teams, any players that are giving them offense, they're gonna command Scooble. They're gonna command anything else worth of value to you, and everything. They're not just 1-for-1 trade. You know what I mean? Like, those trades don't happen like that.
Well, like, to Chris's point too about I'm sure when the Tigers dealt Verlander to the Astros, they wanted either Tucker or Yordan Alvarez. You got to believe they wanted
or Forrest Whitley.
Forrest Whitley, yeah. So and couldn't get him, and they ended up getting the
couldn't, or they didn't try to.
Oh, look, you gotta believe they asked, right? I mean,
no. We talked to Kevin Goldstein. Now, he wouldn't tell us exactly now with the Twins, formerly of the Astros. We had on the show, we were like, and he told us that that deal went through like 80 different names, like back and forth. And he didn't say that much, but there was a lot of different players and a lot of different things. And they thought it was dead multiple times. So I'm sure the Tigers pushed for, any deal like that. There was probably a lot of different moving parts there. And sure would have been nice to get Kyle Tucker. Yeah. And that would have been the sort of player that you're talking about. But I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe the Braves want to part with Michael Harris. Although, what if he's just another Christian Pache? Like, then what have you done? What have you done?
Yeah, Pache's not lighting it up for Oakland either.
Oh.
What's the next question, Chris?
When we said, Alex Harriman said, "Is there a light at the end of this long dark tunnel?" Ask again later. I mean,
like the 8 ball. Shake the 8 ball, Chris.
Yeah. I mean, eventually, right? Eventually, baseball in Detroit's not going to suck. We just don't know when.
That light is a train coming through the tunnel, right?
That's somebody else said. Hey, I was like, yep. Deadly Ninja Bees with a 3-parter. The classic 3-parter. Number 1, if you could get AJ Truth Serum, what would he say about the organization? I don't know if Rogelio could answer that sort of thing because he has been down there with off the record chats. Number 2, what does Avila do now? Doing nothing would be a crime against humanity. Trading off players means rebuild 2.0, which might start a riot. Number 3, does Illich know the Tigers are bad?
I like that one. That's fun. That might be questionable. Let me run with Hinch first. Hey, he got the staff he wanted, we think, right? They overhauled a lot of the front office, which I imagine he had some sign off on. Got that. And whether you like who they spent the money on, they spent money this winter for some players for him. So I don't think he can be walking around with too much against the organization itself right now. It's just, again, the circumstances have totally tumbled against him like a little avalanche this year. Does that make him more likely to want to opt out if indeed he has that? I don't know. Depends what other options are out there for him.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I know people talk about the opt-out, but, like, you're a manager. You can always just quit, right? If you have another job opportunity, like, you might have to pay some money. But, I mean, I still believe A.J. Hinch is a very good manager. Ultimately, you're judged by the results on the field, though, and this is, like, one of the worst teams ever right now. So I don't know what to make of it. It is a weird time right now. Michigan baseball lost their head coach, and a lot of people are pointing to Chris Fetter to maybe come in there and be their new head coach. That seems unlikely to me. Just I feel like once you make that jump to pro ball, you don't go back to college. But then there's Jim Harbaugh, so who knows?
Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah,
didn't the Tigers lose a base coach last year?
Chip Hale, he was their first base or third base coach. He went back to coach Arizona, I believe, their alma mater, when Arizona's coach bounced for LSU. Yeah, so it happens, but I like a position coach or base coach is a little bit different than a pitching coach.
Yeah. Well, I was just yesterday, I don't know. People were really, really down in the dumps thinking Vetter's leaving, and you could just sense the panic, the Twitter panic going on. And like, come on. He's a pitching coach. Let's get over this for a second. He's done a fine job, no question about it. But there aren't many Don Coopers out there who sit in a job for 18 years and get praise like he did in Chicago.
What about Leo Mazzoni and the Braves? I mean, he got.
Yeah, there's a few of them. There's no question. But at any given point, there's maybe one of those guys, right? I had a hard time imagining that a young guy like Chris Fetter, who's having the success, who's been, who was being deified in the media here even before he ever showed up in Lakewood, as soon as he was hired, that this was that this was the destination job for him, that he's going to be the pitching coach of the Detroit Tigers for 6 to 10 years. I doubt that very much. So that's why, not that I want to run him out of town. I don't want him to leave. He's been very good on the surface what we know, but I just don't see this as a destination job where he's going to cling to it forever. That people are going to you have to deal with the fact that if he's getting the Bo Briskys of the world to look this good, someone's going to snatch him up to do something bigger.
Yeah, and one of the things, the coaches are leaving.
Jose
Chip Hale, what's that?
Jose Cruz Jr., yeah.
Jose Cruz Jr. went back to coach at Rice, which is kind of a storied program, even if it's in Conference USA. It's still it's a Texas school that they play real baseball. Michigan is, and they set it up a bunch on IMGO blog. The Big Ten is a mid-major in college baseball. Mm-hmm. So you'd be leaving professional baseball to take the head coach of a mid-major position where you have to spend the first month or more on the road in tournaments. You're at a huge disadvantage. Your conference gets maybe 2-3 teams in every year. It's not a great job if you want to, if he really loves Michigan that much and wants to coach there, he might do it. But it's like if he's at all concerned about his career and future, it doesn't make any sense.
But Bakich just used that job as a stepping stone into Clemson.
That's true. And Bakich went from making, I think, $400,000 to close to $1 million in a year. So it's possible if maybe he loves college baseball more than pro baseball. But I don't know. In any event, I don't even know what we were.
The ACC. Deadly Ninja Bees with that 3-part question. What was the third part of the question?
We said, what does Avila do now? And does Illich know the Tigers are bad?
I personally, I think he's well aware of what's going on. What behind the scenes stuff? In the first part, everything's fine.
It is always weird though when you see we're so hyper focused on the Tigers, and this is a guy that's involved in this enormous business, and they just landed isn't Little Caesars now the official national sponsor pizza for the NFL?
It's the official pizza of the NFL.
Yeah, I'm huge. That's an enormous thing for the Illich company or whatever, and he's probably more interested in that than the Tiger. I don't know. Either he's the most patient man in the world, or he doesn't pay a ton of attention. I have to imagine, if you owned a baseball team, you would pay a little bit of attention to it, right? But maybe he's like one of those fantasy owners that just kind of sets the lineup for the year and goes away, comes back, go, hey, I made the playoffs. I don't think that's the case, but yeah, I think when you're in that position, you can't be like fans and the rest of us who we're kind of out for blood. Somebody's got to get fired, something has to happen. If he would be more than justified to make some moves now, but sometimes patience is a virtue in professional sports. You don't want to be the opposite end where you're George Steinbrenner firing guys 6 times.
Yeah, definitely want to get in that kind of situation. And I know there's a lot of people who are posting District of Detroit video, getting District Detroit video, as far as things not getting done down there. And it is what it is. And if you feel better about bashing the guy, go for it. Boo him, whatever you want to do, that's fine. The Avila thing, I can't disagree with that anymore. Something's got to change. Something's got to change.
Yeah,
something's got to change. The numbers speak for itself about Al Avila. I just don't want to talk about it all the time. There's other things to talk about. Al Avila needs to go. There we go. I said it.
Yeah, it's a different thing. Al Avila, I don't find him personally objectable at all. The way I felt about certain Lions general managers who just came off as cocky, smarter than everybody assholes.
Right.
Al Avila seems like a nice dude, but the results, they're not there at all. This has been a terrible stretch. Part of it by design, but it's not getting better. It's getting worse, it seems. And yeah, it's probably time to move on. And that was actually Steve Cook asked us the question. He said, "Who takes over if Avila's gone?" What did he say? His exact words were, "I'll start. Who is most likely to take over if Al ever gets the boot?"
On a permanent basis, or
That's all he said. Yeah, I mean, I assume that would be. We're all thinking it would be mid-season and probably an interim basis, but I don't know.
As far as I think it would be one of the guys, I think it would be a guy like Jay or Sam. Temporarily. Yeah. And there's a name I'll give credit to, Ghostman on Twitter. And he was saying Will Rhymes, who's currently the head of the Dodgers player development situation right there. That's a name. And with all these LA Dodgers, we see Darko in the front office right now. Who knows? Darko could take over. I don't know. I really don't know. And that was a good question there, Michael, with a last-minute late-night question there. Excuse me.
I think you. So you asked, do you offer arbitration to Meadows and Candelario this winter? I think you have to. I mean, I think their poor performance gets kind of factored into their arbitration. Meadows has 2 more years after this, I think.
Yes.
And Candelario will be in his final year. I can't picture them. I mean, that would feel like penny pinching to me, which is, I guess, not out of the realm of possibility. But who's playing third base? I guess Kreidler. You get rid of Candelario and hope Kreidler can hit better than that. That seems like wishful thinking to me.
That actually we did. I forgot that we should mention this Joel Samaya comments. Let's.
You did mention.
We did mention them kind of casually, but
yeah.
Did we go over exactly what it was said?
No, you didn't know. It was, but it was kind of like the same thing his last comment was, right? Basically, fire Al Avila. This sucks. It's like
Yeah, it was the way basically what he said about how the deal with closed locker rooms, and how casual the Tigers team about it. Was that correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, he talked about Jim Leland coming in there and ripping everybody into ass, and like, I don't know, like Jim Leland and AJ Hinch aren't the same guys, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Didn't Jim Leland, you went down there, you saw Jim Leland not that long ago, didn't you, Raj? You saw him
Last week, yeah.
smoking a heater in the dugout.
Jennifer Hammond, yeah, that was a cool scene.
And didn't he basically say he didn't want to speak at Miggy's thing because it's Hinch's team now, right? Like,
yeah, correct. Yeah, Leland just wants to watch baseball and live his life and just be left alone. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of like speaking, I mean, I thought something he said too is like he doesn't want to compare other players to players. He doesn't think it's fair. And as far as getting back what Zamaya's saying, essentially in a nutshell, look, everybody's going to deal with things differently. It's not every generation's different. There's some generations now that don't like to be yelled at. Dealing as an employer to employee, some of the younger employers I've had would basically break down and cry if I said something like, please get off your cell phone and don't work. Or please get off your cell phone while you're working. But I need my phone. This happened many times in some jobs I had. So everybody's different. And Hinch has the control of the locker room. Can't control what they're doing out on the field. Just it is what it is. So, I mean, I don't want Zamaya. I feel it's a bit weird, but we've talked about more about Joel Zamaya now than we ever have. And then again, we weren't doing a podcast in 2006, but still.
In the last 10 years or so.
Yeah.
We did. I see two more questions.
All right.
One from Dwight R. Davis. He said, what are one or two moves to do up through the trade deadline with an eye towards 2023? Mine would include benching, DFAing Robbie Grossman, trading Chafin, trading Pineda, trading Fulmer. I mean,
actually, you know what? Dwight's not that. That's actually not a bad idea.
All those are possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't expect to get a ton for someone like Pineda. Chafin, you might get more than you would expect because teams, and Fulmer too. We talked about this before. Teams are always looking for bullpen help. Every team that's a contender wants bullpen help at the deadline. So you can push up the price a little bit. The Grossman one is just kind of a giant bummer, right? Like, he's a guy who altered his swing, seemed like he was breaking out in his early 30s, and then
if he could just have a little 2 or 3 week stretch right before the deadline where he perks up a little, maybe some team would want him as a bench bat because he shouldn't cost much. I mean, you should be able to get probably a hard throwing A-ball reliever for him. I mean, you get something.
Pretty much. I mean, it's tough though. He's a corner outfielder only who's not particularly good on defense, and he had some power and some speed, but now he has no power. It's like, I don't know. You get to trade for a guy who walks a little bit. It's possible, but yeah, we just need everybody to get hot.
Kind of same with Scope. I mean, who's going to want Scope? I mean, he's an excellent defender at second base, but he's a free swinger who you trust him to hit playoff pitching. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, the problem is he signed through next year, right? He has the option for next year. So, I mean, I was thinking you call up the Braves, right? They just lost Ozzie Albies with a broken foot or something like that, but they don't want him for the next year plus. I don't think they would only want a stopgap. So, yeah, it's hard to find a team that's looking for a second baseman. It's even last year we saw like the White Sox needed a second baseman, went out and they didn't want Scope, and they traded Medlow. So.
Yeah, they got Hernandez. Yeah.
All right, and I don't really have any other suggestions. Like, there's nobody really showing a ton of value that you could trade. Like, you could, if you wanted to, you could trade Alex Lang or Will Vest maybe, or like any of these guys who are performing well in the bullpen. But
Soto.
Yeah, Soto. I mean, what are you going to get for any of those guys? It's I don't know. All right. And the final question here comes from, I believe it came from Steve Butts. He said, which would score more runs in a head-to-head matchup, Rogelio's Appendix or the Detroit Tigers? This is where I will tell you, I mentioned earlier that the Appendix, they thought it had no use, but now they think maybe it stores helpful bacteria that enters your gut after you have a bout of diarrhea. So that I would say that the Appendix is more into run prevention.
It's a
than run
closer.
scoring. You know.
Nicely done, Yooper. Nicely done, Yooper. Oh man. I think somewhere in my appendix, in the bowels of Henry Ford's ashes, somewhere, I don't know where the hell my appendix is at. By the way, my wife wanted to see a picture of my appendix.
They didn't put it in a bottle for you?
No.
Nobody gives you organs or teeth or anything anymore for some reason.
Oh.
Yeah, my wife wanted to see a picture of my appendix. I was the last thing in my mind.
You should have live streamed the whole thing.
Hell no, man. Hell no. I was in a white, look, being in that room alone, they strap you in and then they put these things on your legs so you don't get blood clots, so it circulates your legs. That felt funky. I felt like I was in the Clockwork Orange where my eyes are like this. And, but then they put the gas and you start getting to sleep and then they put in the anesthesia without you even realizing and then you wake up. And the worst part about yesterday was they put a catheter, and I woke up. And I woke up, I was like, I don't even know what time it was. I have no phone, no technology. I wake up and I go, oh, and I was like, man, I had to pee real bad. All of a sudden, it's like, and the catheter's already gone, but
yeah,
that pain is there and it's real, legit. I know it's too much information out there for people, but good Lord, catheter sucks. Catheter, they did it when I was out, so I'm glad they did when I was out. Because if I saw it, I probably would have been like in Clockwork Orange, like just I'd like start screaming or something. Yeah. But good Lord,
that reminds me though, my nickname for Jason Foley is the catheter, a Foley catheter. I'm telling you, that needs to catch on.
Why?
Why not? Everybody needs a nickname. He's the catheter.
I don't know.
We got to make that happen. We got to get that out there.
Yeah.
I'm not going to. I'm not. Yeah. By the way, you know what? Oh, dude. Michael Mayer woke up during his surgery for his hernia. Oh my God.
Oh wow.
Was it like we're legit awake, or what's the one where you're basically conscious but you can't do anything about it, which sounds like an absolute nightmare to me.
Wow.
Yeah. There was a guy I actually met when I was doing radio, when I used to do radio in Grand Rapids, that he was allergic to anesthesia, so he couldn't take it. So anytime he had surgery, he was
got to huff some ether.
He was fully unconscious during some sort of surgeries he had.
Wow.
And I was like, dude.
Hardcore. That's like Civil War stuff. No, I used to have when I was like 12, 13, I had sleep paralysis. Like happened to me like a half dozen times where I would wake up and I would be awake, but I couldn't move, and it was the scariest thing. So
wow,
that's cool.
Yeah,
so cool. Right.
They told me to close my eyes. That's such
right. Stop peeking.
Oh man,
oh,
Michael,
man, what
I'm
a nightmare.
so sorry, Michael. Man, that is. Oh
wow.
Yeah, but it was funny making small talk with them on the way down there. And they couldn't say my name right because no one ever can say my name right, which is fine. Whatever. I get used to that. But it was just a small talk about, so what do you do for a living? And, I tell them, I don't follow baseball. All right. Do you know what spindle repair is? That's part of my day job. No. All right. I mean, they're all it was a crew of young people, very young surgeons, like 5 or 6 people. But I'll never forget it. It's an experience that I'm sure Michael can attest to this. This is something that you'll never forget. Yeah, I'm just glad that I'm out of there and I can function. But was that the last question tonight, Chris?
That's the last one I saw. We got a nice amount of them, but a lot of them were like, how can anyone fire the pitching coach and stuff like that. It's like, well, we discussed that, Yeah. So.
And but thanks so much for listening tonight. Jumped on the YouTube chat. We really appreciate all the comments, and I will hopefully, like I said, touch and go about, I'll be down there tomorrow or this weekend. But
go. Just relax, man. You could take a couple games off. This team scores 1 run a game. 31 times. What are you going to see? They went out and they didn't score today. Good thing I got up and stretched out my scars.
Yeah, no, that was funny. I think the funny part today was when Brisky and Castro did the sliding leg catch. It looked like an 80s movie. It looked like an 80s kick. It looked like it's just because they coordinated at the same time. But
Risky.
thanks. Yeah, thanks everybody for all the comments and all the kind words. I appreciate it. And yeah, I might take the weekend off. I should take the weekend off, honestly, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'll see you coming here tomorrow.
Look.
Animal.
Yeah. Well, like I said, we'll see how I feel. Right now,
Yeah.
I should hit the. I gotta go to bed. I might.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, all this pain on the side is starting to kind of come back. Like, hi. So anyway, enough about me. No more about me. Listen to the podcast. Subscribe to the stuff on iTunes. Some couple written articles that were delayed. It'll be out hopefully this weekend. Some college baseball profiles as the MLB Draft Show live on July 17th. That is a thing. So Brennan Day from Bless You Boys will be joining us. Trevor Hood from Bless You Boys Prospects Live will be joining us. And we got Scott Bentley from Locked On Tigers will be joining us. And more. So details to come. They're actually working on a poster. Woodward is working on a poster. So we'll have our own little promotional poster. I don't have to do the work for it.
Sweet.
So yeah, Justin over in our promotion. We have a department. I work for a place that has an actual department. So it's awesome.
Hey, very cool.
Well, like I said, what's up, Yooper? What were you gonna say?
No, that's great. Sounds awesome.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to talking to you again next week. And we'll be live tweeting, of course, for normal. And more than likely, you will not see me tomorrow at Comerica Park. And Chris is shaking his head now, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
I'll believe it when I don't see it.
At any rate, have a good night, everybody.